I'm Gabe.
And I'm Johnny. Today we'll delve into yet another theory in the Legend of Zelda universe.
The 7 heroines of the Gerudo have been subject of analysis and theories since Breath of the Wild was first released. Many of their secrets have been uncovered, but there are a few huge mysteries around them that still need answers, and that's what we'll try to provide in this video.
The statues of the 7 heroines are located in the eastern side of the Gerudo Desert. By now, it's clear that they are a variation of the legend of the 7 sages from previous eras, with the 7 sages being literally written in Gerudo script next to them, shown as Gerudo women for being represented from the perspective of their culture, or even merging with the goddess of Sen worshipped by the ancient Gerudo. In various games, the sages, or their descendants, the maidens, are usually presented as 7, with one of them being Princess Zelda herself, and were many times essential in sealing the current big bad away. The most notable exceptions being the 6 sages present in Twilight Princess featuring the same emblems from the ones in Ocarina of Time, the 2 sages from the Wind Waker who had the particular function of powering the Master Sword instead of sealing Ganon, and the 7 sages from A Link Between Worlds, where Zelda was not one of them.
In Ocarina of Time and A Link Between Worlds, our other sages were given the most attention, making correlations between them easy. In Ocarina of Time still, each has given Link a colored medallion with their symbol and a specified element: light, forest, fire, water, spirit, and shadow, with Zelda being their leader, theorized to represent time, and often associated with the Triforce at the center for her connection to the goddess Hylia. In Breath of the Wild, they were also given new virtues and symbols, but disconnected from each other, and that's where all the mess begins. We don't know what virtue correlates to what symbol here. And while the symbols are already colored, most of them still don't make immediate sense as for what they represent.
The virtues given to the 7 are skill, spirit, endurance, knowledge, flight, motion, and gentleness. So spirit is an easy match, which belongs to the Gerudo thief Nabooru, aka the Spirit Sage. Now the others not so much. We can't connect them simply by name, but for who each sage was. I would say the most gentle among them was the Kokiri Saria, the Sage of Forest, and childhood friend of the Hero of Time. Wisdom could easily have been changed to knowledge over the ages, representing Princess Zelda, who held the Triforce of Wisdom. Flight surely looks like a hard one, but considering how none of the others had any connection to it, and the Ritos didn't exist yet, it could be a Nochuraro, the ancient Sage of Light reincarnating as the owl Kaepora Gaebora to help Link in his journey.
That still leaves us with skill, most fitting for the Sheikah ninja warrior Impa, the Sage of Shadow. Endurance for the rock-hard Goron chieftain Darunia, the Sage of Fire. And motion for the Zora princess Ruto, the Sage of Water. As we get to know, especially later on in the series, that Zoras are very swift swimmers. But don't you dare think it's over. There's still those new emblems that look nothing like the previous ones. Assuming they kept the same color over the ages, the green one could maybe be wind flowing. Yeah, it's a stretch, but remember that the Forest Temple in Ocarina of Time was supposed to have wind elements. They were kept in the forest section of Ganon's Tower and in the symbol present in the medallion. The blue flame could actually be a water drop, the yellow one could be a sun, as it is the same symbol used to represent our sun in astrology, and the red could be a swirling ball of fire. If those already sound like we're trying too hard to make connections, what about the others?
What does the 2 white dots have to do with knowledge, wisdom, or time? Is it about the duality of Zelda and Hylia? What does this triangle thing have to do with Spirit, Nabooru, or the Gerudo? Is it a heroine statue viewed from above? And what about the 2 columns have to do with skill, shadow, or Impa? Is it about the Yiga split from the Sheikah? Since their symbols, elements, and even changing from a multiracial group of sages to all Gerudo heroines were distorted over the ages, the colors are right, but let's assume they got mixed up as well. Now they aren't necessarily at the right places, so let's try to connect them based only on their shapes.
So, starting with the apostrophe looking one, it could be half of the yin-yang present in the Spirit Medallion, or a simplified Kokiri symbol. Let's leave it as Ceres' gentleness, because it will fit better than the others. Then, the one previously connected to forest seems best fitting for a river or waterfall than any of the others, making it Ruto's motion. The triangle could be Death Mountain, home of the Goron, but better leave the flame shape as Darunia's endurance. Now it got a bit complicated. So let's take a look at Shadow and Light. They were opposite figures in Ocarina of Time, one emitting light from the center, while the other holding the light contained.
Looking at the new symbols, none really looks opposite to one another, but following the line of thought of light and shadow, the two columns could be an uprising beam of light, while the other would be the same column slanted, preventing the light from rising, being Impa's skill and Rauru's fight. Now we get the two dots that could either be a reduction of the yin-yang for Naburu's spirit, or the dots in the middle commonly present in the symbol. And finally, the circle could be Zelda's knowledge, that wasn't originally part of the Circle of Sages, but at the center of them all, surrounded by the others. All those could also match the sages from A Link Between Worlds, as Gulley's gentleness, Auron's motion, Roxel's endurance, Impa's skill, Osfala's spirit, Irene's fight, and Serra's knowledge, or another yet unseen future group of sages.
But there's still more, the bigger mystery, the forgotten 80th heroine, erased from most Gerudo legends, can be found far to the northwest on the other side of the snowy Gerudo Highlands. This one has no associated virtue, element, symbol, or color. Why is she located so far from the others is unknown. However, there's one place where they are all together. In the Gerudo ruins the Iga took as their hideout, there are 8 identical statues of the heroines, meaning the Forgotten One was most likely built along the others, in the missing space of their circle, as their materials and the geography around them seem to indicate they were carved from the rock wall of the mountain, and this one was later removed somehow, for some reason.
Another piece of evidence that suggests she was moved and not sculpted at her current location is that her sword is misplaced, even higher atop the Gerudo Highlands. At first I thought it could have something to do with the dragon Farosh, which usually flies nearby and has opened a path on the ice. On the other hand, with the floating islands we got to see in the trailer for the sequel, she could have been lifted up in the air using a similar kind of magic or technology, and her sword ended up falling along the way, as on closer inspection is sitting almost in a straight line between her original place and the current one.
Now we're just left with who she was. At first, we might think of the 7 sages from A Link Between Worlds, as Zelda was not part of them at the time, explaining the later removal of the statue. Another option I've seen is that she could have been an actual hero, Link, as she is, for whatever reason, a mirrored version of the others, even with the Gerudo script inverted, which will make her left-handed, like most Links, who usually need to find their magical sword. However, in the quest log for the 80th heroine, it is stated that she is worshipped to this day by her faithful in the Gerudo Highlands, who are the only people living in the Gerudo Highlands, the Iga, who chose to make their hideout in an abandoned Gerudo ruins and worship Calamity Ganon, who was once the Gerudo King of Thieves, Ganondorf, in the distant past.
When he was their king, the Gerudo were devout to Ganondorf, and despite bringing destruction to Hyrule in his hunger for power, could be considered a hero for his people at their era, delivering more riches and prosperity to the Gerudo than when they were thieves. Still, it was the same hunger for power that brought his demise and ultimately the near extinction of his race, and apparent banishment from Hyrule for many ages, which would certainly make his people resent his deeds and not consider him a hero anymore, thus removing the statue.
That's all for this video. Tell us in the comments how would you match the symbols of the heroines, and what are your theories for the relocation of the Forgotten One. And remember to press the like button and subscribe to our channel.
If you want to see more, you can click here for our last theory of Zelda about how the friendly Hudson might have been lying to you all along in Breath of the Wild.
See you next time.
Bye!